Hello, this is a recap of American series called The Act. Please don't forget to subscribe. Let's begin. The episode starts with a 911 distress call in June 14th, 2015 from a worried neighbor Lacey, stating nobody at Dee Dee's house is answering. Lacey cries for the police to hurry, revealing that her neighbor has posted some terrible and depressing post on her Facebook page. In the meantime, her mother, Mel, enters Dee Dee's residence through a window to check if anything bad has happened. As she stares at the silent house, the police sirens can be heard in the background. After a while, the detective finally enters Dee Dee's house and they discover her badly stabbed corpse in the main bedroom. They share the news with Lacey and her mother, who are now worried about Dee Dee's daughter, Gypsy, whereabouts. The show then flashes back to 7 years earlier. Dee Dee lives with her sick and wheelchair-bound daughter, Gypsy Rose, in their new home provided by Habitat for Humanity. The two arrived in the new neighborhood in Springfield, Missouri in 2008, following the destruction of their previous home caused by Hurricane Katrina in 2005. One day, they sit for a television interview where Dee Dee talks about how getting the house was like a Disney dream for her. In the next scene, Dee Dee shaves Gypsy's head in the kitchen sink. As they talk, Dee prepares a medication concoction and injects it into Gypsy's stomach via a long tube. Later at night, Dee Dee sings a lullaby for her daughter and makes her wear a sleep apnea machine to bed. After leaving Gypsy to sleep, Dee Dee opens a closet full of medicine bottles and takes a few pills for herself, including one named Sleepy Baby. The next day, they get a surprise visit from their neighbor Lacey. She offers Gypsy a makeover, and Dee Dee reluctantly allows it. During the makeover, the two girls start to bond, and Gypsy shares that her father made fun of how she walked when she was a child before she used the wheelchair. All this time, Dee Dee is closely listening to the girls' conversation. Later, she makes sure to scrub off all the makeup, much to Gypsy's dismay. The following morning, the mother-daughter duo decided to venture out and meet new people in the neighborhood. First, they come across Lacey and her boyfriend, Mel, who are washing their car. Dee Dee heads over to Lacey's mom, Mel, who is chilling out with her friend, Shelly. The three talk about parenthood, but Dee Dee keeps mentioning about how her daughter is suffering with diseases like paraplegia, epilepsy, anemia, and heart murmur. Shelly and Mel are amazed by Dee Dee's strength to look after her poor kid. As the mother talk, everything comes to a screeching halt when Lacey offers Gypsy a sip of Coke. Dee Dee immediately rushes over to her daughter and tells everyone that Gypsy is allergic to sugar. The following day, Dee Dee takes Gypsy to the mall. Gypsy pleads with her mom to buy a blue necklace, but rather than buy it, she slaps the chain into Gypsy's bag. It isn't until the last moment that she spots her neighbor Mel looking at her. In the evening, Dee Dee tries to talk to Mel, but the latter simply ignores her. So, with the intention of buying Mel's silence, Dee Dee plans a party at her house, inviting all neighbors. Meanwhile, Gypsy takes the time to search best friend and boyfriend kiss on her mom's laptop and immediately deletes the search history before her mom gets home. The scene then cuts to the party where a lot of people are gathered. Everyone is having fun out in the yard, and Dee Dee talks to all the people one by one. Just then, Gypsy decided to eat a cupcake, which can be fatal for her. Seeing this, her mother freaks out and immediately rushes to stab her with an EpiPen. This stuns everyone, and you wonder how much pain Dee Dee has endured to care for her sick daughter. Gypsy wakes up at the hospital and overhears the doctor telling Dee Dee that she is not allergic to sugar. While leaving, they find Mel waiting outside to drop off Dee Dee's wallet that she had left at the party. Dee Dee thanks her and laments that she doesn't want people to see her as a woman with a bad reputation due to her past. Mel also reveals that she has her own troubled past, so she understandably offers to start afresh. At night, Gypsy lies her daughter for bed and puts on her usual sleep apnea machine. As Gypsy fades off to sleep, Dee Dee opens a stash of checks addressed to Claudine Blanchard, possibly her real name. After that, she goes to bed next to her daughter. Less than an hour later, Gypsy wakes up while her mom is asleep and shuts off her machine to get out of bed. Gypsy, who had been a wheelchair user until this moment, stands on her feet and slowly tiptoes her way out of the room. She then goes to the kitchen to eat whipped cream while reading her EpiPen. But after she licks a handful, there is no shock. It turned out she isn't allergic to sugar. Her mom had just lied about it. When she returns to her room, she is startled to see her mother awake, who furiously tells her to get back to bed. On another night, Gypsy sits in front of her laptop watching makeup videos on YouTube while enjoying a tub of frosting and a Coca-Cola drink. She soon feels a pain in her tooth, perhaps having agility after all. The sugar she has been eating secretly. The following morning, Didi wakes her daughter up to share great news. Gypsy has been named the Community Child of the Year. While she gets excited, she notices Gypsy's tooth troubles. Didi immediately suspects it is underlying condition and took her daughter to see their pediatrician, Dr. Harley. At the hospital, they meet with the doctor, and Didi thinks Gypsy acid reflux has returned, which is ruining her teeth. While the doctor calls for a gastroenterologist, Dr. Chandra, to look at Gypsy, Didi sneakily steals his prescription pad from the counter. In the following scene, Dr. Chandra suggests Didi make an urgent dental appointment. However, Didi wants to treat her daughter's acid reflux first, prompting the doctor to become suspicious. So she asks for Gypsy medical records, but Didi states that they were lost during Hurricane Katrina. Before the doctor can say anything, Didi rushes her daughter away. Later, Dr. Chandra asks Dr. Harley if he has confirmed Gypsy's full medical history, but the latter has no answer. After this, the scene cuts to Didi and Gypsy waiting in their car outside a pharmacy. Surprisingly, Didi takes out the writing pad that she had stolen and forges some prescription on it. Back to the present, the detectives examine Didi's stab wounds. Meanwhile, Lacey suspects someone might have been after Gypsy instead of her mother. She also informs the detective about all Gypsy's underlying illnesses. The movie goes back to 2009, where Gypsy has one of her teeth root out completely while brushing her teeth. She whimpers with excruciating pains as the sink is left in a bloody mess. Because of this, her mother starts giving her more unnecessary medication. After a while, Didi takes Gypsy over to Lacey's, who is hanging out with her friend. As the group discusses travel topics, one of the girls notices Gypsy's bad tooth, prompting Gypsy to reveal that she has been sneaking out to eat sweet things at night. Meanwhile, Dr. Chandra is ready to give up on her suspicion. She makes several calls to hospitals to learn more about Gypsy's medical history. She finally places a call to the Child Protection Services, and Ellison, one of the representatives, pulls up on Didi's doorstep. Seeing this, Didi immediately springs into action, feeding sleeping pills to Gypsy to make her look sick. Allison introduces herself and looks around the house. When she asks for Gypsy, Didi lies to her that her daughter has the mind of a 7-year-old. Soon, Allison sits for a talk alone with a medicated Gypsy while Didi lurks at the doorway. She interrogates the little girl continuously to check if she's fine. However, at Gypsy's peak, she appears disoriented and dizzy, so confirming her mother's claims. After this, Allison questions Didi about her social security card not matching the name on her addresses, but as usual, the mother uses Hurricane Katrina as an excuse. With this, Allison decided to conclude her visit, as she didn't find any suspicious activity. Next, Didi takes Gypsy to the dentist to have her teeth extracted. After she is put under anesthesia, she wakes up to find most of her teeth gone. The little girl weeps while looking at herself in the mirror. With a swollen mouth, later Gypsy tells her mom that she doesn't want to attend her Child of the Year award, not wanting to show herself in such a state in front of people. However, this only angers Didi, and she yells that Gypsy is going to the event. We are then taken to the award day, where Didi is preparing her daughter for the big event. She also brings some dentures for Gypsy to wear while on stage. After a while, her name is called upon on the stage for the Child of the Year award. Along with the recognition comes financial help of $5,000. Didi cannot contain her happiness after receiving the check while the crowd cheer for them. She then gives an emotional speech before and Gypsy sign a impromptu rendition of I Will Be There. Meanwhile, Dr. Chandra calls to check on Gypsy and manages to get an appointment with her. Despite Didi's reluctance, in the evening, Gypsy and Didi are back to the hospital for their appointment with Dr. Chandra. In her room, the doctor manages to talk with Gypsy alone and tries to convince her that she isn't allergic to sugar. She offers a can of Coke, but Gypsy refuses to drink it out of loyalty to her mom. Just then, Didi arrives, prompting the doctor to put away the can and start examining Gypsy. Back in 2000, 15. The cops continue to search Didi's home to find clues to the murder. Sometime later, Lacey tells him of a secret Facebook account Gypsy had created to make friends, and he assumed she even had a boyfriend. Following this, the movie again flashes back in 2011. Didi collects all the money from GoFundMe page that it pours in for her supposedly sick daughter. Meanwhile, Gypsy continues her routine of sneaking out of bed at night to watch YouTube video on kissing and cosplay. Next, she prepares for a Fantastic Con, a cosplay event. While putting some makeup on her mom while checking in the event, Didi says her daughter's birth year is 1995. When the girl at the counter asks her, this confused Gypsy, as she was always under the impression that she was born in 1993. Soon the two run into Shelley and her boyfriend at the event. Meanwhile, Ross, one of the neighbors, notices Didi and tries to ask her out for a date. However, Didi changes the subject and asks to leave for the restroom while Gypsy approaches a guy dressed as a Wolverine. He introduces himself as Scott and they chat about their favorite Marvel character. Gypsy then urges Scott to see the DeLorean from Back to the Future, to which he agrees. Likely, they are invited to the front line. Scott picks Gypsy up to put her in one of the seats, and the two have fun together. Sadly, the good time doesn't last long, as Didi interrupts them and hurries Gypsy home. At the same time, Ross again shows up, trying to get Didi's attention, and shares that he too had a son in a wheelchair before he died. After they reach home and tucks himself in bed, Gypsy sneaks out again to open a Facebook account, hoping she will find Scott online. However, she becomes confused about her birth date again, so she checks her mother's purse. To her surprise, her actual birthday is in 1991, meaning she is 19 years old. Angered by her mom's lies, she steals some cash from her. The following day, at a gas station, Gypsy secretly buys a cell phone. In the next scene, Didi surprisingly gets a call from Ross, prompting to her ask where he got her number. Meanwhile, Gypsy starts talking with Scott through her new phone, sharing about her hospital staff, whom she refers to as her friends. Didi consents to get phone calls from Ross, but their brewing romance cuts short when he offers to help her with her sick daughter. As expected, Didi doesn't want anyone close enough to unravel her lies. On the other hand, Gypsy has also become close with Scott. She suddenly suggests that she wants to run away with him. She also gives him her address if he wants to send a gift. Lo and behold, he sends her a package containing a red Ariel wig. Lacey catches Gypsy smiling at her phone and asks her about it. Unlike her mother, the little girl shares everything. She talks about Scott, who she refers to as a Prince Charming. Before departing, she also tells Lacey about her secret Facebook account, which is under the name Emma Rose. Later at night, Gypsy gets a message from Scott saying that he is in the emergency room at the hospital, so he can't talk. This worries Gypsy and she immediately heads to the hospital. When Scott sees her, he is taken aback that Gypsy can stand on her 2 feet. Back at home, Didi wakes up to find that her daughter is nowhere to be seen at the house. She then finds a note Gypsy left stating that she is feeling away with her Prince Charming and never come back. Elsewhere, Scott takes Gypsy to his place. She is seemingly happy to be home with her Prince Charming and puts some ice pack on his bruises. After chatting for some time, they kiss but get interrupted by Didi at the door. Didi begs her daughter to return home and admits that she nearly had an anxiety attack while she was gone. Hearing her mom, Gypsy reluctantly agrees to return back. Before leaving, Didi tells Scott that Gypsy is just 14 years old. Once back home, Didi pulls her daughter's red hair and forces her back into the wheelchair. The episode starts in 2013. Gypsy peeks through her windows to watch Matt, the lawn mowing guy. It evidence that she has a growing sexual drive that of a young woman. Although her mom treats her like a baby, Didi interrupts her, asking her daughter to take a bath. Gypsy reluctantly agrees, and when Didi finishes scrubbing her, she's having her period. Didi gets upset after seeing blood stains on the bath mat. Having her mother clean up minister blood is definitely a tiny victory for Gypsy right now. Considering her mom's emotional torture, she cheekily smiles before her mom starts cleaning the mat. At the hospital, a doctor examines Didi and informs her that she has type 2 diabetes and has to get insulin shots. Gypsy asks the doctor if her mom's condition is serious, which the doctor affirms and adds that it could be fatal too. Hearing this, Gypsy is scared for her mom's deteriorating health. After all, she is her daughter. Next is Gypsy's birthday, but she is still unconvinced of her mother's lie that her birth year is 1995, not 1991. Didi lies that the birth date Gypsy found was a type and that she is 18 years old now. She gives Gypsy a pair of pet guinea pigs as a birthday present. Meanwhile, Lacey visits Gypsy and mentions that she met her new boyfriend online through a Christian dating site. It intrigues Gypsy and she asks Lacey to show her the site. Didi gets a call from Gypsy's dad, who asks to wish her daughter on her birthday, but as usual, Didi lies about Gypsy being terminally ill and not having many days to survive. Their conversation is interrupted by a call from Gypsy nurses from the hospital. The nurse informs that since Gypsy is now 18 years old, they need her consent for anything invasive. This gets Didi nervous and she goes to find Gypsy after hanging up the call. When she sees Gypsy and Lacey sitting on the porch, Didi scolds her daughter for taking the guinea pigs outside and her there inside. Later, she tries to scare Gypsy about what's beyond their doorstep. Such a creepy stalkers who steal young girls. Didi wants to get a legal guardianship over her growing daughter so that Gypsy can give consent. However, when she and Gypsy go to a lawyer, she keeps controlling Gypsy, making sure she says the right thing to perpetuate the act. Thankfully, the lawyer determined Gypsy is competent on her own and dismissed Didi's request. In the following scene, Didi takes Gypsy to a shopping mall and rants about how she couldn't get guardianship, but her diabetes seems to get to her slowly as her ankles are swollen and she is lightheaded. Gypsy asks her mom to sit while she goes to get medication from the pharmacy, but she goes to a store where they sell laptops and buys one for herself, hoping to explore the online digital site. Gypsy immediately sneaks her laptop to their van and hides before her mom knows about it. While returning to the mall, she finds her mom in bad shape. They hardly return home and Gypsy injects her mother with insulin. Didi asks Gypsy if she loves her. Gypsy reluctantly nods, but her facial expression shows she is yearning to break free from her controlling mother. Later at night, Gypsy signs up for a dating site that Lacey had told her about. She poses with a black wig and uploads her profile picture on the site. The following day, Didi asks to watch Twilight with Gypsy, but her daughter's mind is elsewhere. Gypsy wants to see Matt, the lawn mower, again, but her mom manages to convince her to watch the movie. Didi covers Gypsy's eyes. An initiate scene comes on, but Gypsy takes a quick peek through her mom's fingers. That night, Gypsy once again suffers through the dating site on her new laptop. She finds many messages on her profile, including one from Matt, the lawn mower guy, showing off his private parts, which startles her. Just then, a guy named Nick pops up, looking to chat. Gypsy accepts his request and soon the pair start getting to know each other. Nick compliments her that she looks like a princess. Their text conversation moves on to the live webcam. Gypsy mentions that she uses a wheelchair and virtually explains having many challenges in her life. On the other hand, Nick says that he accepts Gypsy for who she is, despite her health problems. He also shares about having multiple personalities and his dark side. Meanwhile, Didi calls her lawyer to ask about the power of attorney since she wants to control her daughter's life in any way possible. The lawyer affirms that she needs to have Gypsy sign some papers before Didi can be regarded as her legal caregiver. And so, Didi's act starts once again. One night, she pretends she has low blood sugar and asks Gypsy to tend to her. While Gypsy checking on her sugar level, Didi says that Gypsy needs to know that lying and cheating are wrong and talks about how she ended up in jail a few years ago for such acts. She frightens her daughter by explaining that the consequences of lying to people, their wildlife. But then Didi says there is a way for them to stay safe and not go to jail before presenting the power of attorney papers. She presents the papers as a threat to her daughter that she will be made responsible for her mother's crimes of cheating people. Gypsy hesitantly signs her name on these documents. Later, Gypsy whips over the webcam to Nick and says how she has been trapped all her life. She then tells him the truth about not needing the wheelchair. Instead, it was her mom who made her do this. Nick wants to calm Gypsy down, so he offers to introduce her to a strange bit of erotica, showing an explicit image. The following day, Dee wakes up to find Gypsy gone from her bed. So she goes to Gypsy's room and finds Gypsy on the floor with the laptop still her by side. Dee immediately brings the laptop to the kitchen and smashes it with a hammer. Gypsy wakes up to a thudding sounds, only to find her mom lashing out on the matter. Gypsy, however, rebels, saying she will buy another one. This only promotes Dee to go nuts. She drags her daughter to their common room, throws her on the bed, and tries to tie her arms. Frustrated, Gypsy fights back and spits in her mom's face, while her mom shatters into pieces. Gypsy tries to escape but return to her mom. This shows that Gypsy is trapped in so many ways, and one of those is psychological. Later that night, Gypsy shares more about her life with Nick as their online relationship goes deeper. She narrates his dark side while he initiates sexual tension between them. Gypsy touches herself, exploring more about the adult world. The show then jumps to 2015. Gypsy keeps falling further to Nick, but Nick wants to come to visit her in person. He laments that they have been together for 2 years, so they have to see each other physically instead digitally. Gypsy is unsure since her mom would never let her have a boyfriend. She suddenly comes up with an idea. Nick can accidentally run into her and Dee, making it look like he is seeing Gypsy for the first time. The following morning, Gypsy asks Dee to go to a Disney trip, but her mom's health seems to be deteriorating every day, as she refuses to take insulin or exercise. When Gypsy can't stop begging her about going on the trip, Dee lashes out. She grabs Gypsy's shoulder, gaslighting her about how she has done everything to keep a roof over their head. Next, the series cuts to Wisconsin and finally gets to see Nick in real life. He works at a pizza builder as a waiter, but has recently upgraded to the kitchen. His bosses teach him to cook a pizza, but it doesn't go well. Nick clumsily knocks two uncooked pizza into the floor, so he gets sent out as a walking pizza advertisement slice. Later that night, he returns to his lonely room and starts his usual routine of talking with his online girlfriend Gypsy. As they talk, Nick playfully says that his dark side can actually do violent things like murdering people. Gypsy shrugs it off, although she seems concerned. Dee informs that she is taking her daughter to see the new Cinderella movie. Gypsy then buys a bus ticket from Nick so they can meet at the movie premiere. She tells him to arrive at the premiere a bit earlier so that he can open the door for her and her mom, hoping that his courteousness impresses mom. But things don't go out as planned on the movie day. Gypsy is clad in her Cinderella dress and arrives at the theater with her mom. She eagerly waits for her boyfriend Nick, but he is nowhere to be found. Just when she starts feeling hopeless, she sees Nick, and the two are seemingly pleased to see each other in person for the first time. But when Dee comes to fetch Gypsy after buying movie tickets, Nick fumbles and ends up scaring Dee. She hardly heads inside with her daughter. Once inside, Gypsy is more concerned with waiting for Nick to come to the hall than the screen, but her expression lifts when Nick comes to sit behind her. Dee immediately moves her daughter to the next corner when she sees him, but it doesn't stop Nick from following them and sitting behind him. Dee gets pissed off and moves again to the next corner. Nick finally gets up and leaves, upsetting poor Gypsy, who had so much planned for their first meeting. After some time, Gypsy uses the excuse of going to the restroom to look for Nick. Likely, she finds him in the hallway and urges him to go to the restroom where they can have some private time. There, they have their first kiss and lie on the bathroom floor to make love to each other for the first time too. Afterward, Gypsy returns to the movie hall, pretending nothing intimate had happened. Once the movie is over, she and her mom prepares to leave. Just then, she spots Nick waiting for her in the lounge area. Nick tries to open the exit door for Dee and Gypsy, but Dee gets aggressive with him. She takes Gypsy away, calling him pedophile and a stalker. At home, Dee suspicious about whether Gypsy has met Nick before. Gypsy lies about it and goes to her room to text Nick. Nick apologizes for not being able to make a good impression on Gypsy's mom, but he is determined to tell the truth about the relationship with Dee. Although Gypsy begs him not to, Nick calls Dee and tells everything. He makes clear that he and Gypsy have been in love for years and that he is the father of her future children. He emphasizes his dominance, assuring her not to talk rudely, and then hangs up. This only makes things worse for Gypsy. Dee switches to her aggressive mood and ties Gypsy to the bed in a desperate gathers of punishing her for the action. This only promotes Gypsy to text her boyfriend that she needs his dark side Victor to be activated so that he can help her. She asks him to kill her mom since she can't bear the emotional and physical torture. Nick gives a horrific stare as the things are finally crossing over terror. One day, while at mall, Gypsy sneaks off from her mom to make another secret purchase. Only this time it isn't a laptop, but the same knife she plans to use to stab her mom. Meanwhile, Dee Dee panics as she can't find her daughter. Sometime later, she spots Gypsy in a toy store. It turns out Gypsy has had the time to hide the knife and pretend she is buying a gift toy for her mom. Dee Dee thankfully sighs after seeing her daughter, and they return home. Later that night, Gypsy confirms with Nick that it is the following night they will kill her mom, and they will be together forever. The following morning, Nick heads to Gypsy's place from Wisconsin, while Gypsy offers to clip her mom's toenails. She also paints nails, and they spend a sweet moment together for one last time. Gypsy then suggests they see Dr. Harley to change her feeding tube. This takes them out of their house for a bit. Later that night, they go to bed together, but once Dee Dee falls asleep, Gypsy gets up and backs her suitcase hardly. This is when Nick arrives at her place. The show jumps back to 1991 in Lafourche Parish, Louisiana. Dee Dee is giving birth to her daughter Gypsy in the hospital. The doctors inform that there is a problem with the umbilical cord, but then they manage to cut it out. It takes a second, but then the baby finally wails, and the doctor informs Dee Dee that her baby is alive and healthy. Afterward, Dee Dee's mother, Emma, comes to see her newborn granddaughter. It is easy to notice that the two have issues centering on power and control. Dee Dee reluctantly hands over her daughter to her mother, while Emma urges the nurse to give a bath to the baby. Skipping back to 2015, Nick and Gypsy are hurrying their way out in a cab and fleeing the crime scene, while Gypsy suddenly looks back at her mother's house one last time. There is no remorse on Nick's face. The two lovers then head off together to the motel where Nick was previously staying. Gypsy and Nick hang out in the motel room. They enjoy the brownies they took from the house. Gypsy dresses up in her wig and records Nick on her camera. After they get intimate, Nick and Gypsy lie in bed talking about their favorite movie characters. But it's not long before Gypsy finds that the real-life conversations aren't as exciting as the ones they had online. It's one of many signs for her that this isn't turning into the fantasy she imagined it would be. Jumping back to 1991, Emma constantly chastises her daughter, Dee Dee, about her abilities as a new mom. Dee Dee is scared that her daughter is sick. She wants to see a doctor, but Emma assures her nothing is wrong with the baby. At the hospital, the doctor informs them that Gypsy is smaller than she should be at 2 months old. Although it is uncommon, the doctor then tells them he will send some supplements for the baby, and Dee Dee has to feed her more to gain weight. Meanwhile, Emma keeps trying to control Dee Dee even at the hospital, which only shows that Dee Dee grew up to be exactly like her mother later in life. In the next scene, Dee Dee's cousin Janet and her two daughters visits her. Janet also lectures on how Dee Dee doesn't need to see a doctor, and she's just being overprotective of her baby. In the present, that is 2015, Nick and Gypsy go to dinner for breakfast after checking out of their motel rooms. As they order their food, the police officers enter the dinner, and Gypsy starts to panic. She suddenly remembers that they still have the knife with them. Nick assures them he will take care of it, but Gypsy fumbles and accidentally drops her anxiety pills. One of the officers notices it, picks it up, and they give it back to her before realizing that the medication was named after Claudia Bratcher, Dee Dee's real name. Thankfully, the officer doesn't notice anything suspicious and walks away. The couple then decided to mail the knife to themselves in Wisconsin to get rid of it later, and Voight secretly checks in the bus station. The show cuts to 1993 and Dee Dee is filming Gypsy, but she is so focused on her daughter that she doesn't hear the knock on the door. It turns out that the police have come to arrest Dee Dee for felony check fraud. As the police handcuff Dee Dee, Emma brings Gypsy into the room to watch her mom taken away by the police. Gypsy cries and requests her mom not to let her daughter see her in such a shameful condition. In the courtroom, Dee Dee is sentenced to 6 months in jail for forging checks. She then tries to say goodbye to Gypsy, but Emma won't let. Dee Dee then yells that Emma could have raised the money for her bond. As she's pulled from the room, Dee Dee begs her mother to follow the doctor's schedule to care for Gypsy. Back in the prison, Nick and Gypsy get to the bus station for Wisconsin, only to find out that Nick didn't book a ticket for Gypsy. Since there are no more seats on that day's bus, they book 2 tickets for another bus which is only available after 2 days. After 4 months, young Dee Dee gets released from jail. When she arrives home, her daughter doesn't immediately remember her, and instead she starts to cry. Dee Dee then gets mad at Emma because according to the schedule, Gypsy should be sleeping right now instead of playing outside. Emma says that her granddaughter is at least happy with her. Later, Dee Dee is worried that Gypsy is sick. Despite Emma saying Gypsy is fine, she says that Gypsy is clearly ill, and Emma is actually trying to prove that she is better mom than Dee Dee is. Emma just smiles and says she could have told the cops that Dee Dee wasn't there when they come looking for her, but she knew Dee Dee needed to learn a lesson. She then weakly says that Gypsy was better with her than Dee Dee from the day she was born. Nick is busy enjoying a violent movie at the motel, while Gypsy isn't impressed. Neither does she enjoy their physical intimacy later. She starts to realize what she's done to get away from her mother was only morally wrong, but also regrets running away with Nick as his early doll and the true sociopath. Skipping back to 1997, Emma's health is deteriorating. Dee Dee seems worried about her, but Emma refuses to go to the hospital. Later, a doctor tells Dee Dee that her mother's tolerance to pain isn't working anymore and reveals that Emma only has a few days to live. In the next scene, Emma struggles to breathe while Dee Dee tearfully tells her mom that she loves her and knows Emma always tried her best. But Emma replies that Dee Dee made it impossible for her to live as she takes her last breath. The following day, Gypsy sneaks outside and plays on the trampoline with her cousins. Unfortunately, she falls off and hits the ground hard. She is barely moving as her mother holds her. When Gypsy gets out of the hospital and returns home, it is the first time we see her sit in a wheelchair. Dee Dee urges her to use it until she is strong enough, although it is clear that Gypsy's legs are fine. Fast forward to 2015, Gypsy and Nick head off further on the road trip to Wisconsin. Nick's mom, Casey, picks them up when they got to the bus stop. As they drive, Cassie and Gypsy talk, and it turns out Nick has told his family that Gypsy and her mom were homeless. Cassie starts asking about her mom, promoting Gypsy to have flashbacks. Once at the house, Gypsy meets Cassie's boyfriend, Vince, and gets a brief tour of their home. Gypsy slowly realizes that her Prince Charming's home isn't what she had imagined. The family doesn't have any food in their fridge. She is upset by how rude and weird his parents are. She's shocked when they don't have any medicine, even Pepto-Bismol. Her disappointment continues when Nick shows her his cultured room. Afterward, Gypsy and Nick manage to pull a trick in the supermarket and steal some food. Back at the house, Cassie again brings up Gypsy's mom, which starts affecting Gypsy. She starts to feel bad for leaving her mother dead, where nobody will find her for a long time. She abruptly walks out after having a couple of flashbacks from the day of the murder. Nick follows her, and Gypsy tearfully suggests that they make sure her mom's body is found, saying someone else killed her. Once her mom's body is out, they can live in their old house together. Nick then comes up with an idea to post a message to the shared Gypsy and Dee Dee Facebook page. This will prompt somebody to go to the house and stumble into the crops. The couple then write a post saying that B is dead, thinking that is exactly what a real murderer would say. The show quickly cuts to Lacey, who is home after her long day at work. She immediately sees the post and calls her mother Mel. Gypsy and Nick aren't convinced that many people have seen the post, so they went to grab people's attention. Gypsy then writes another post claiming how the murderer even raped Dee Dee's daughter, but she forgets to turn off the laptop's location. Back at Dee Dee's home, Mel and Lacey call out for her, but there is no response. Lacey then decides to call the cops. Cops are now searching Dee Dee's home, while in Wisconsin, Nick and Gypsy prepare for dinner. Just then, the package with the knives they had sent to themselves arrives, and Vince gives it to Gypsy. Gypsy starts to panic again and wants to get rid of the murder weapon right away, but Nick doesn't see the need to rush as he says it's too dark outside. Gypsy realizes he is utterly clueless and continuing to bluster about their happily ever after, not materializing. Nick's mom interrupts their brief argument and the two settle for a while. Meanwhile, the cops have tracked the location of the Facebook posts to Big Bend, Wisconsin. A SWAT team and the sheriff surrounds Nick's house later that night. Vince and Cassie comes out with their hands up while Nick and Gypsy hide in the armor. The cops soon have the two lovers in custody. Before they are taken away, Nick and Gypsy agree that they did the right thing, so they will just tell the police the truth. Next, the couple is interviewed in the police station. One of the detectives, Gypsy, a few questions, wondering if she was involved in the murder. Gypsy denies her involvement. She even pretends that she didn't know her mother was dead. Her ex continues as she breaks down in tears, saying she has always loved her mom. The detective can tell she's lying, though. Meanwhile, Nick is opening up the truth. He admits to stabbing Didi, saying he did it for him and Gypsy to live happily together. He even confides that Gypsy was the one who asked him to kill her mother. Nick also shares about having multiple personalities and how he hears voices in his head. It turns out that he is also still under the delusion that he and Gypsy will make a family together and where he will be going to prison. The officer then starts asking Nick further questions, giving his background of having mental issues. She questioned if he had sex with Didi's dead body, to which Nick replied he doesn't like necrophilia. Elsewhere, Nick's mother Kathy explains that Nick has a history of mental illness and his mental age will always be around the age of 15 or 16. She added that she was shocked to see Gypsy act so casual after having her own mother killed. She then called Gypsy a beast, as she is taken aback by Gypsy's lack of emotion. Cassie also laments that her son's mental problems make it hard for him to fully understand what he was doing. The series then shows Didi's face as her corpse lies in the morgue. Gypsy and Nick given their fingerprints and mugshots. In the meantime, Mel and Lacey watch a press conference in which the local sheriff gave an update on the investigation. He shares that they have found Gypsy and she is safe, which is a relief to Lacey and Mel, but they are confused when he contains and say that things are not always as they appear. Later, they see Gypsy walking on her 2 feet into the court for her prosecution as Mel and Lacey look on from home, completely stunned. Gypsy is informed that she is facing life in prison or even the death penalty for conspiring her mother's murder. Upon hearing this, she breaks down in tears, realizing she will never have her happily ever after. The final episode starts with a brief scene in 1997 Louisiana. Young Didi and 6-year-old Gypsy lay outside on the grounds as they have been homeless after Emma died. Didi could not afford to buy her mother's house, so she had no option but to pick her bags. As they lay head to head looking at the stars, they promised to protect each other forever. The show cuts to 2015. Nick and Gypsy are announced about their punishment if they were to be found guilty. They would both be charged with first-degree murder, meaning they could get life imprisonment or death penalty. The judge asks if Gypsy has anything to say in this. Her lawyer encourages her to say something. Gypsy shakily stands up and pleads that she isn't guilty. She maintains that she could never kill her mother before the hearing adjourns. In the next scene, Gypsy sits alone with her lawyer. She is still unaware that she can actually get the death penalty for her crimes, so she asks if she could really be executed, to which the lawyer explains that right now people see Gypsy as a cold-blooded murderer. Gypsy once again clarifies that she couldn't kill her mother as she loved her so much. The lawyer charges off and tells her they must change the story. They needed to get people on her side, so Gypsy has to appear more sympathetic. The lawyer then suggests getting a hold of Gypsy's medical records to prove that Didi's had been lying and manipulating Gypsy about her medical condition. This way they could win the case, but there is a catch. The lawyer can't get the record because of the power of attorney documents that Didi had Gypsy sign forcefully. This gives Gypsy power of attorney to her mother, so she needs her dad to retrieve the papers. Her lawyer then suggests Gypsy call her dad, but Gypsy refused, saying she doesn't have one. She added that he was never present in her life while her mom worked so hard to care for her all this time. Later, the prison doctor examines Gypsy, and she takes this opportunity to ask her if she can help get the medical records. But the doctor bluntly refuses and seems pretty harsh with Gypsy. The doctor is not too keen on having Gypsy with fake problems when others in prison have actual medical issues like cancer and stabbing. The doctor removes Gypsy's feeding tubes as she no longer needs it, but when Gypsy requests to keep the tubes as it is, last thing she has of her mom, the doctor tells her it is now a biohazard and throws it into a dustbin. Prison's life for Gypsy becomes worse as she can't make any friends. She eats lunch alone and softly cries on her bed. When the female inmates, including Gypsy, walk in a line outside, Nick spots her and tells her how they are like the infamous couple Bonnie and Clyde. They will eventually die together, but it's not what Gypsy wants us to hear. Later, Gypsy stands in a line to make a phone call to Lacey, but Lacey isn't so receptive after discovering the truth about Gypsy and her mother. Gypsy explains that the media is circulating fake news and she isn't guilty of the murder. She also asks Lacey to visit her in prison so they can talk in person, but Lacey is reluctant. Lacey asks if Gypsy could walk this wild time and Gypsy goes numb. She explains her situation before Lacey says she has to go and hangs up. With no one to turn to, Gypsy makes another call, this time to her strange father, Rob. While the inmate behind her scolds her for taking too much time. She says that she knows he doesn't really know her, but asks him for a favor. Gypsy wants her dad to bring her medical records since it is the only way out for her. Elsewhere, Mel and other neighbors are pissed at the Blanchard for lying and cheating right under their nose. Mel calls them vampires who suck them dry of their trust and goodwill. But Lacey thinks there is more to the Blanchard story. She tells her mother that Gypsy had called her the other day and asked her to visit her, only making Mel more pissed. Back in prison, Gypsy is informed that someone has come to visit her. She thinks it's Lacey, only to find her dad Rob in the waiting room. After strange hellos, he gives her the medical records that his daughter had asked for. Rob takes this visiting opportunity to point out multiple instances where Dee Dee lied to doctors about Gypsy medical conditions, like almost a whole week of daily seizures and a case of leukemia at the age of 3 that never really happened. Gypsy realizes her mother never let her speak for her and always made sure Gypsy obliged her orders. Rob then clarifies that by speaking for Gypsy, Dee Dee's made Gypsy her prisoner. But Gypsy fires back at last. Her mother was there for her and always loved her. Rob tries to explain that he met Dee Dee when he was just 17 years old, but she was much older. He was so young that he didn't know how to take responsibility, but he still loves her. Rob added he tries to visit Gypsy many times, but Dee Dee wouldn't let him as she always had some reasons not to. Gypsy, however, doesn't believe his excuses and says he could have tried harder. Rob says that her mother made that difficult, especially because she moved Gypsy from one place to another. He also points out that he had been sending them checks every month. Gypsy doesn't want to hear her dad justify his actions anymore, so she starts to gather the medical records to leave. She also doesn't want to believe how much her mother potentially lied to her. Just before she prepares to leave, her dad begs her to stay for a second and hardly shows baby pictures of her with him. He tries to convince her that he was her from the day she was born, showing a picture of him holding an infant Gypsy. Rob also has a photo of them at the Special Olympics when she was just 8 years old. It finally catches Gypsy's attention as she realizes her mother always claims that she had invited Rob but he refused to come. Things finally make sense for Gypsy and she starts to cry. Rob apologizes for not being around more. Next, it is the betrayal conference for Gypsy and Nick. Gypsy looks back at the audience seat and firmly sighs when she sees her dad. Her lawyer presents the medical records for evidence showing Dee Dee manipulated her daughter and controlled her entire life. The audience also separates Gypsy's trial from Nick's as Gypsy was abused by Dee Dee, so the circumstances around her are very different than Nick's. Not surprisingly, this move shocks Nick as he tearfully says that he did the deeds just for Gypsy. After the conference, Gypsy asks her lawyer if her separate trial means she won't get the death penalty. The lawyer explains that Gypsy needed to plead guilty and hopefully she gets a deal with less prison time. Meanwhile, Mel and Gypsy watch a news segment on Gypsy trial on their television. Mel is still pissed and turn off her television before calling the Blanchard con artists. Lacey blames herself for what happened and revealed to her mom that she was the one who showed Gypsy the dating website where she met Nick. There were times time when Gypsy shared something, but she disregarded them as she thought it was all fantasies in her head. She regrets she missed potential signs. Just then, Gypsy once again calls her from prison. Only this time, she ignores it. Later, Mel suggests maybe Lacey should talk to Gypsy. Lacey hesitated initially, but her mom encourages her to look Gypsy in the eye after all the lies. But instead of Lacey, Mel ends up visiting Gypsy at the prison. Mel confirms Gypsy and asks when she knew she could walk on her 2 feet instead of using a wheelchair. Gypsy sighs for a while and asks if Mel can be her mom now, that she needs one. She tries to explain that she trusted her mom until she didn't let her grow up. Mel's explanation clearly shows that she has been heartbroken with Didi and Gypsy lies since they were such good neighbors. Mel then says that Gypsy can always be the person Didi made her into, and she is sorry that she can't be her mom. Gypsy is, in fact, on her own now. Before she concludes her visit, Mel remarks that sometimes the only way out is through. Gypsy truthfully watches her leave, realizing everyone close to her now hates her. The show then flashes back to the murder night. Gypsy texts her when he arrives at her door with gloves on. She joins her mother in bed and reminisces the time they spent looking at the stars together back in 1997. That was when they promised to protect each other, as shown at the start of the episode. As they talk, Gypsy starts to get emotional since she knew that will be the last night with her mom. She abruptly tells her mom good night, and after a while Didi also falls asleep. Once her mom is deep in her sleep, Gypsy starts to pack her suitcase while Nick arrives at their front porch. She also readies the murder weapon before getting the door for her boyfriend. She then tiptoes through the hallway and urges Nick not to make any sound. Gypsy gives Nick the knife and leads him to Didi's room, since she doesn't want to see her mom getting stabbed to death. Gypsy ducks herself into the bathroom. After some time, the horror starts as she hears her mom scream in pain and fights back with pain. Gypsy covers her ears trying to block out the sounds of her mom screaming with pain. She keeps pacing in the bathroom for a while before sinking to the floor and breaking down after hearing her mom screaming for one last time. There is silence for a moment. Just then, Nick knocks on the bathroom door and asks to let him in. Nick is equally nervous as he shakes and breathes hard after killing Didi. He has blood all over his neck and the murder weapon. Gypsy immediately takes the knife but doesn't wear any gloves. She shakily rinses blood of it. There is a large cut in Nick's hand as he removes the gloves. Gypsy then places a bandage over the wound and gets wet wipes to clean up her boyfriend. Next, the couple heads to Gypsy's room, but she stops when she sees her mom's dead body. Nick assures her that he has taken care of it and leads Gypsy to her room. The couple still can't sink into what they just did, but Gypsy forces herself to be positive. She kisses her boyfriend, reminding him that this is the happy ending she always wanted. Yet another act. Nick then clears a bunch of stuffed animals lying all over Gypsy's bed. He pulls Gypsy down, and the two become physically intimate with one another. In the following scene, Gypsy readies herself with some makeup, while Nick takes his time to clean blooded stains of his clothes. She then calls a taxi before leaving her pet guinea pigs outside in the wild. Gypsy picks her things and wears her grandma's ring. Nick asks her one last time if she's ready to run away with him. In the present, Gypsy is taken back to her jail room. After her meeting with Mel, she misses her mom and imagines that she is with her once inside her room. In the final scene, the series informs the audience that Gypsy pleaded guilty to second-degree murder after a year of incarceration. She is currently serving 10 years of jail time, and the plan starts her family once she gets out. On the other hand, Nick has been convicted of first-degree murder and serving life imprisonment without parole. I hope you like the video. Please don't forget to subscribe. Bye!